Mhm.
Welcome to the NY Patriot Show. Tonight, I have with me a co-host that I'm sure that you all recognize already. But if not, this is Teresa from the Spiritual Gangsters. You want to say what's up to everybody?
What is up? Hello.
Thank you very much for jumping on as usual. And this tonight we do have a guest with us that we've actually, I think both of us have been on with him the other two times as well that
Yeah,
he's been on
2
the show.
times.
Yeah, this is his third time. Third time's
Third
a
time.
charm, and I had a great time with him the last two times he's been on. It's always just very interesting to hear what's going on in another country that I'm not in. Like
Mhm.
we are even saying prior, with censorship and all, like we always hear how these other countries have like these valves on the internet that only certain things can get, go in and out. I'm like, I don't hear much about what's going on in Canada. Could that be, by design or, whatever? So it's interesting to actually hear what's going on from somebody that lives over there and is seeing it,
Yeah, I get
So,
the ground floor report.
yes, exactly. Yes. The investigator in the streets.
Yeah.
And without keep on rambling, I'll let you introduce yourself and let everybody know where they can find your work.
Okay, Mark, I run Vancouver True Crime, and I do a variety of stuff. I talk about like dark psychology. I'm interested not so much in like the blood and sensationalism of true crime. I'm more interested in the more like the mindset, the psychology, the motivation or the intention, right? That seems like what I'm more interested in, and I also try to advocate for the families and work with the families as well too. So and then also I like to talk about kind of like things that kind of affect our society, right? Like we're talking a little bit off air about the uptick in violence in general, right? Like almost every city has a similar phenomena. Like riding the SkyTrain, which is our subway here, has gotten pretty dangerous. Like people have been stabbed. It's just been multiple like really vicious assaults. But then when I'm on TikTok, I see pretty crazy stuff in New York too on their subway. You know what I mean? And same
Oh,
with Toronto too.
yeah.
There's been some stabbings and stuff as well. So this phenomena seems to be spreading, right? This unhinged violence that we seem to in our city centers. So.
Definitely. I mean, I'm probably not going to get anywhere with this, but I was actually like wondering about the subways and the trains and all that stuff. And like, I recently had purchased some like ghost hunting equipment. And I was like, I'm actually going to, I might next week just jump on the train and take it into the subway. And I'm going to take my EMF and like my radiation meter. I'm going to see if there's like because the third rail.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering if there's actually levels of EMF in the tunnels, and if it's over a certain amount, it could be an reason why people get a little loony. I don't think it will be that high because I'm sure somebody would
Mhm.
have tried testing it already, but I am interested to see if there's like a level of EMF that could be causing people to act loopy in these fucking tunnels.
Yeah, it could be a bunch of stuff, really. I think what it is, like for Vancouver, we have a pretty major drug crisis, and you may not know this, but the government in Canada has legalized. Well, I guess the word they use decriminalize. Of course, it's we got to use the right terminology, right? So you can carry in BC, British Columbia, or a province I live in, 2.5 grams of coke, meth, heroin, fentanyl, MDMA, basically any hard drug. And to me, that is insane. Like for that amount, and that's a lot of drugs. That's a lot of drugs, especially at 2.5 grams of heroin or fentanyl, were 13 or what was it, 15 salt
That's
little.
probably like 5 bundles of dope right there. That's a
Well, think about this, right? Because I talked to a friend of mine who also co-hosts me, is David. He's was a very high-level trafficker, right? And he ran on the downtown east side these buildings that facilitate drug dealing. He ran one of them. This guy was pretty connected to some scary people. Sometimes I'm not kidding, Nick. These buildings, the type of money they made in a day, we're talking 100K, 50K, 20K on a slow day, on a welfare Wednesday, 100,000K in drug sales just off one building. And he ran it like an iron fist and stuff. And he was like saying if they had these laws when he was running it, they would just have a bunch of runners with 2.5 grams on them. The cops cannot do anything. They can't confiscate it. And, there is an overdose crisis in specifically BC. We had one day, we had over 250 people overdose in one day. That's a provincial record. But these are every single day. I think in the month of March, over 600 people. But these are the people that die. 70% do recover if they get intervention from a paramedic. So the paramedics and frontline staff are literally doing hundreds of calls every single day because of this drug crisis. So there's a lot going on. It's like a perfect storm, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yikes. Well, even in Toronto, because we're both Canadian, me and Mark, but like even in Toronto, we hear about so much crime in BC. Like I'm scared to go to BC, and I'm from like the busiest city in the country.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm like, I'm not going to Vancouver. Are you crazy?
Well, it's not safe because
yeah, it really seems not safe, honestly.
No, not at all. Like, most cities, no matter where you go, if you go somewhere with an attitude, you got a chip on your shoulder, you're loud, you're going to get piss someone off, right?
Sure.
You're going to escalate something into where what's happening now, it's this phenomena of random attacks. So a woman walking, she wakes up in the hospital because someone bashed her on the head, or bear spraying people, is walking into a restaurant, bear spraying. A really horrible one that happened about 3 weeks ago. A guy on a Sunday with his toddler asked,
I was just going to say that
don't
one.
vape around my baby. He gets stabbed to death and dies. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's stuff that never would think, like, Vancouver and this level of like third world almost violence, like Honduras or something.
Well, it's such a juxtaposition, because when I think as like stereotypically of Vancouver, I picture like the beautiful mountains.
For sure.
I picture girls in Lululemon,
Starbucks,
bikers and joggers, and then like crazy dope fiends like just strung out on the street. Like just both of those in a coexistence. It's nuts. But I heard about the toddler, not the toddler being stabbed, but the father.
Yeah, it's horrible.
In front of his child, and I was like, wow, that's even whack for like Toronto guys. Like,
on a Sunday and like 2 PM, and like what I'm saying, like these violent incidents are happening, like in very public places, buses, on sky trains, and like during the afternoon, during the day, like in the evening, not like 3 AM at some sketchy bar or something, like they would be in the old days, or like that's how it was in the old days. Okay, late at night, idiots drunk, things escalate, they got out of hand, right?
Totally. Well, in Toronto, we're seeing that too. Also, like on the subway, it's more like random crime happening, and a lot of knife crime.
Yes, yeah.
Like, because I guess it's legal to carry a knife. Like, you don't need a permit for that.
Well, to some reason, I guess, right? And it's not legal to carry a knife in Canada if you have a purpose for it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, what if your purpose is self-defense?
Yeah, self-defense is not, because they can argue intention, right?
Okay.
Well, I'll give you an example of our system here, right? So I posted on my Instagram page. Now, you think there's certain crimes where it's so clear cut, you just got to get this dude off the street, right?
Yeah.
So this 6-year-old sketchy dude walks up to an elementary school in broad daylight and takes his pants off and starts exposing himself to children, right? Of course, cops get called. He gets arrested. They do this thing in BC. It's called catch and release, basically, and it's nothing to do with the cops. The cops hate it, actually. Yeah. It's the courts. Okay, promise to come back and appear. So this guy, in his actual, so the court will give them conditions. So in his court conditions, it says, you must be wearing a pair of pants and apparel when you're out in public that covers your genitals. Like, he actually had to write that down to tell him. And then he doesn't show up for his court date. And then they send out a bulletin. Oh, he didn't show up for his court date.
Surprise.
And this guy that exposing himself to children. But if he doesn't show up to his next one, then we'll write a bench warrant. But that gives you an idea, like, how degraded the system. A guy that with a machete attacked a bunch of people on Granville Street with a machete. They let him out on bail and then didn't show up for court. Oh my God. Like, if you attack people with machetes, you may not really care about court conditions. I'm just saying, you're a little far gone, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's the environment, right?
Too. I mean, Jesus.
But that's what I'm saying. So people are frustrated because the cops can't really do anything because they'll arrest them. Of course, they'll arrest them, lock them up. They see a judge lets them out. There was a guy, I think I've posted about this guy so much because he's done so many crimes, from like stalking women, pulling knives on security guards, arson, racist, crazy attacks on some poor Chinese woman. And then they all make the news, and then they, but he's out on, promise to appear, doesn't show up.
Wow.
Same guy.
That's crazy.
Right?
So we don't have that in Ontario, right? The catch and release?
And not to the degree that we seem to have it in BC. I don't think any other province. And I think in Canada in general, there's like judges have like, discretion and stuff. And like, I guess this is how it works here. Generally speaking, with these types of crimes, the cops arrest you, you go in front of a judge, and then that depending on like how severe the severity of the crime, but then it's confusing too, because sometimes there's murders and knifings and people being attacked, and there's no bail system, no electronic bracelets. They're just shocked. Whoa, they didn't show up. Well,
it's so wild.
There's much of an incentive to show up.
Well, I'm telling you, if you wanted to be any sort of criminal, I'm saying if you wanted to be like the most sophisticated entrepreneurial criminal, like someone really high up on the drug trafficking trade, the more the business end, we're into laundering the money, and you know what I mean? They're kind of a little bit removed from the actual, business, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Or if you wanted to be this like a street criminal, psychotic, or even the middle of the road one, there's no better place than BC. There really isn't, because it's almost impossible to lock you up here. It's almost impossible to be locked up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I remember you talking about that one other time. You're on about how like loose it is over there, and I was very surprised.
Yeah, but the problem is that then you have this other, like the other image that you're talking about, the Lululemon Vancouver, the trendy Vancouver, the beautiful tennis whites, the golfing, how are those two going to coexist? Because the people that are into that kind of stuff don't want to be attacked by machetes and bear sprayed and wake up in the hospital or have their businesses ransacked, or what, you go on and on, right? So it's like this delusion, believing that you can have people that are crystal meth heads who have severe mental health issues and then are also homeless should be able to coexist with people that are in the market to buy $1 million condo, and maybe they'll get that second Range Rover, but it's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's frustrating to watch too.
Yes.
Something I thought I noticed trending on for you, that I noticed you were posting a lot. You seem to have like a lot of missing women.
Yes.
BC
has a missing person problem in general. We have twice the so you have Ontario, or province of Ontario is about 15 million people, give or take, the entire province.
Yeah, I think so.
BC, I'm guessing, I'm going to say 4 million. Vancouver 3, Vancouver Island, or maybe 5. Vancouver, give or take, the whole Metro Vancouver 3, Island 1 million, and then the interior BC another 1 million, right? But we have twice the physical people missing than Ontario. With even such a drastic difference in population, we have twice as many people physically that go missing. Of course, Indigenous women are probably most represented. But recently I've been posting about missing men that don't really fit this criteria. So the least likely type of person to go missing is usually an athletic young male that's not involved in gangs or crime or any type of criminal activity. And there was a weird spike, especially about 2007 to about 2010, where these young guys were going missing, like just out at the pub with their friends, and they don't make it home.
Smiley face killer shit right here.
Yeah,
it was similar to that. Yeah, very similar.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was even a big spike here. And I did a show with a guy yesterday and I haven't released it yet. But there's an example. There was a guy named last name was Keller. I can't remember. John Keller, yes. And he was at this 4x4 kind of like a meetup. There was like 1,000 bunch of 4x4s. They meet. It's like this out in Mission, BC. It's kind of this flat area by a lake, and people camp and bonfires and 4x4 trucks. His truck was found in a ditch, like still running, the windshield wipers on, his cell phone still in there. And the guy was a big guy too. He wasn't like some small little dude. He was like 6'3", about 230 pounds, like jacked. He was like a construction worker. And he completely gone missing. Couldn't find him. They searched the area, search and rescue, dogs. 1 year later, they find his body floating in that lake where they found it. A year later, perfectly intact. So that's a strange one.
What?
Yeah.
Girl, that's straight up smiley face killer crap.
But there's a lot of these creepy kind of missing person cases in BC that you scratch your head. There's no rhyme or reason. They just disappear. And they remind me, because I looked into that smiley face there. The only thing that's different with the smiley face killers, through the ones in BC, the boys or young men in BC, they just disappear. That's the only one that's strange like that, where they found him, but like a year later. How did his body stay perfectly intact for a whole year in water too, right? That's impossible, right? So that's strange.
Maybe it didn't. Maybe it was killed later.
Yeah, exactly. Held, frozen somewhere, stuck in a freezer,
That's crazy. Yeah. That's one thing, like, I will say, I think I might have said it the first time Mark came on, but like, as an Ontarian,
right,
it's my observation. I've only been as far west in Canada as Edmonton.
Right.
That's as far as I've gone. But like, when I was in Edmonton, I was like, I can't believe the crime I'm hearing on like the 6 o'clock news.
Right.
It was like axes and machetes, beheadings, and I was like, where am I? I felt way less safe walking downtown Edmonton at like 8 p.m.
Oh yeah.
than I do at 2 a.m. in Toronto.
Oh, I totally believe that. Yeah, it can be the Wild West out here, definitely.
Like the crime is
just the drugs, though. It's the drugs. It's there's a lot of in a lot of the Western Canadian cities. There's a lot of street drugs. There's a high population of crack and meth, and of course now fentanyl, right?
Yeah,
and it seems to be expanding, right? Too.
Yes. Well, and I think too, like you were saying when you were giving stats about BC's population. Like, I don't think people understand like how large the landmass is.
BC's a massive province. Yeah,
it's humongous. And then like you're saying, like in interior BC, there's only 1 million people.
Yeah, spread out.
Like in that whole area, like there's a lot of places you could hide bad shit.
Oh God! I'm working on this Highway of Tears series I've been writing, and I'm starting from the beginning, from the 60s and 70s of how it got the name, the Highway of Tears. And that's what I mean. Like I've actually been up in that area. Like the big city up north would be Prince George, and Prince George would maybe be 100,000 people, but it'd be a big city for that area. Wow. But it's like an industrial city. It's like wood mills and pulp mills, and so there's a lot of like men who work that come and go, truck drivers, tradesmen, things like that. So it has a high transient population of workers coming and going, and then there's a lot of like logging roads and service roads, and so there's this a labyrinth of wilderness of these off roads. So I feel there's probably so many that they haven't even found. It's crazy. It's just like he said, there's 1,000,001 places literally to hide a body. And when you go up there, it's beautiful, it's mountainy, but it's extremely isolated. Like
like Canada's huge. There's a lot of empty space here, like with not a lot of people.
Well, there's even a lot of spots in the United States that you can still dumping tons of stuff or making shit disappear.
Sure.
Yeah, I just found the nature of the crimes differ the further west you go. I guess the further isolated. maybe that's the difference.
And you know
Density of
what, too, and
population.
this is probably not very politically correct to say, but one of the issues in Vancouver, it's kind of like the last stop, right? So we get kind of like the dredge of the rest of Canada, the drifters, and because it's kind of like the last play. And plus, too,
Yeah.
oh, there's going to be drugs out there. It doesn't snow as much, and
It's
you
true.
know, yeah, they have like this paradise. It's going to be, you know, especially there for a long time. I don't see it as much. But when I lived downtown, we used to get like every summer, we'd get this massive homeless French Canadian population, and they would come by riding the rail car trains,
Oh,
and
wow.
they looked rough, like, you know, literally clothing, like literally like stitched together, and you know, like I've actually swear to God, I've seen some that look like they're wearing like wearing sacks, you know what I mean? Like their clothes, it looks all handmade, almost like something like they're like all like handmade clothes, like barely and you know, barely staying on it together.
Yeah.
And that's what they thought. Oh, there'd be drugs and you could sleep on the beach. And, you know, this everyone is in Vancouver, his hands out crack like a, you know, like a greeting, right? Like, hi, handshake. Here, you had your crack today, you know?
Hi.
So they come here with those ideas that they know everyone's liberal about drugs. You could, and then the worst part is when they do get here, there's all these NGOs that make money by literally giving them free drugs and pipes and, you know, needle exchange. I get the needle exchange because it prevents the spread of disease, but the free drugs, like seriously giving people cocaine, meth, and heroin for free. Yes.
Probably not a good idea.
And do you think that's going to advertise? Like, you know, hey, guess what they're doing over here, guys?
Yeah, attracting a certain crowd, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I interviewed a guy named Jerry who started a drug dash business. So on his website, I haven't gone on it in a bit, but on the last time I went on it, I'm not kidding. You could go to his website and you could order an 8-ball to your door. And he had everything on the thing. And his argument, and he wants to actually open a physical location where you can go in, buy coke, heroin, meth, but he'll guarantee that it's not laced with fentanyl. And his argument, and he's going to make this constitutional argument. So if the government did decriminalize drugs, right? Therefore, they're responsible for providing safe drugs. Then, you know what I mean? Like if they said that if they say it's okay to drink, you know, before it was prohibition, but people were still making bathtub gin, right? The government would step in. No, we got to regulate it. We can't have, you know, bad hooch going around blinding people, right? But it's kind of like that's his argument, though. That's his argument. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, interesting. I think it's totally insane. Here, yeah. Here,
that's like that's like in high school we used to have dial a bottle. Now it'll just be all the high school kids will be having house parties and doing drug dash.
Well, think about this though, right? Like it's again, like it's like he may be cool because he doesn't want, you know, his you know, intentions is to provide safe drugs. And one of the other issues that I agree with him, one of the big issues, especially in the downtown east side of Vancouver, there's these scumbag drug dealer predators, and they target vulnerable women that are addicted to drugs. And these guys are like super creeps, right? So the thing is at least these women can buy their drugs from him, because he's not, you know, he's not going to be a creep, right? And maybe even save their life that way, right? But the thing is that when people see people making massive amount of money selling drugs, which they will, there's going to be a lot of scary people who are already in on it and that want to get on it. So there's going to be this, in my opinion, this almost this drug gold rush of different crews, gangsters, idiots.
That will cause more crime.
Oh, it's going to cause massive crime.
For sure.
Because it's a small pond, right? It's a small pond, but you're going to have a lot of people coming here thinking they're going to get a piece of the action, right? No, it's kind of. I think this summer is going to be hyper violent. Last summer was, but I think this summer is going to be even scarier. Because, yeah, don't do drugs, kids.
I hate to go backwards though, but I do want to ask if you happen to remember any other specific cases with like the younger men going missing, like either ending up in water or from like a bar or a club.
A lot go missing. Okay, so there was a big rash of them, and a lot of them were going missing after like pubs.
Oh damn! I think we're losing.
Uh-oh.
Froze on us.
No.
Oh, I still have hope. I don't know.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Video games, and he lived literally.
Oh wait, hold up. Yeah, you started freezing up real bad. Hold up a second.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you
Gonna have to repeat his
hear me
whole
now?
answer.
How about now? Better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine on mine side. He was 5 minutes from playing video with his friends, and this is a weird case. His like 2 blocks from where he lived, but it was at his grandparents. His grandparents lived in a kind of like a senior complex, and they found his car at the senior complex, but like no trace of him. And literally like, hey, I'm going to be home in about 5 minutes, pop in the car, like literally a 5-minute drive. Cars found at the grandparents' house, which was kind of en route, but still kind of a strange place for the car. And I think the door was open and there was no sign of struggle.
Did they ever find him, or he just disappeared?
No, nothing. Just without a trace. Yeah, there's been a few. Then there's been some exchange students too that have gone missing under strange circumstances. And then these are the 2 weird ones. There was these 2 kids, both 17 years old, and they were both last seen going to their own bedroom. And when their mom went to wake them up the next morning, their beds weren't made and they were gone without a trace. But nothing. They didn't take anything. One kid, they believe, he started getting these weird texts. The kid was East Indian, and they were saying, oh, the girlfriend of this kid was getting he met another woman, he's in India, right? But he didn't take his passport, nothing, right? Didn't take money, bank, he had glasses. And then but not that far away, and almost like the next town over, around but in the same year mark, another kid got into like a minor little argument with his dad. His dad grounded him for like some bad grades, like minor stuff, but it wasn't like the end of the world. And they were going to go watch a movie together. He decided he didn't want to watch the movie. He just wanted to go to his bed. Same thing. Next morning, he's gone without a trace. And then the weird thing was they also said the bed wasn't made in. So it's almost like they were lured or something. I don't know. But again, no trace, heavy searches, yeah, and over the years, no one has ever come forward either. Yeah, and so those 2 are strange.
What's your idea with the smiley face killers? In your opinion, do you believe in something like?
I think there's something there. I think there's some people that try to lump in too many other cases into it. Oh, you know what I mean? And I again, like most conspiracy stuff on the internet, there's the people that kind of try to stick with the facts and try to understand. And then there's people that just try to, they want to really make everything under the same. Yes. Yeah. So I think there's something there.
Do you think it could be like, just like, I've often wondered, could it be like a thing that multiple different groups might be doing? Or it's not like all of them are connected, but maybe it's kind of like.
Well, I think I explained it once like this. I was talking about it. It's sort of like, these disgusting, when you hear about these, the Jeffrey Epstein, these other Peter Nagard stuff, these pedophile rings. There's usually people involved. They have their secret little numbers and, they have their codes and blah, 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 right? And there's going to be people that maybe they're not into kids, but they're into, let's say, blonde hair, blue-eyed, athletic young men or something, right? Maybe they hook up together. Maybe that, you know what I mean? Like when you go on the dark web and these kind of creepy message boards, there's almost like a place for everyone, if that makes sense. I'll give you an example. Like This
Well,
is
one
like,
good point I think to make real quick is that, like, I do think some of them probably do get caught that way, and if the person is kind of like on the dark web in
yeah,
some weird unknown fetish weird chat, odds
yeah,
are the people around him aren't going to know about it really,
yeah,
because if he's that trying to hide who he is in that little clique. I'm sure so when people are like, oh no, that wasn't him, well, how do you know? You never
yeah.
know. But sorry to interrupt, but
No, 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 totally. I was taking this is like back in the early 2000s, and I was taking some IT courses and stuff like that. And I had a roommate that was also taking, similar courses as me. And one night we got drunk, and I guess because he was drunk, got very comfortable with me, and he pulls out his computer and he starts showing me these form boards that he goes on. And this is like early in the internet where there's not streaming yet. It's just pictures mostly and stuff like that. And he's showing me stuff that just like my blood just instantly went cold, like just horrific, like chicks being beat up and like just really over the top, like kind of really violent. And I was just like, holy shit. And I lived there with my girlfriend, right? So I was like, oh, great, we got this creep in our house, right? And so, anyways, yeah, I was pretty disturbed by that. And then he told me, he started talking to me, and I didn't say a word. I just wanted to hear everything he had to say, but I was just standing watching him. And he's all like, oh, he's all animated. He goes, yeah, they have all these message boards, and they have like places of which countries you can go and rape chicks, and where the jobs, like, where the court systems are really fucked up, so you'll be able to get away with it. And like, it was all like this breakdown of all the stuff, like places you can go and abuse women and stuff.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, like, this was so long ago. So imagine if they were organized, these kind of creeps were organized. So anyways, make a long story short, I kicked him out of the house. I told him if he didn't move out in a week, I'd break his legs, because I didn't want him around my girlfriend, because he legitimately creeped me out. Like, he really did. Those pictures were like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yo, you mentioned that thing with like even different countries.
Mhm.
Even just from, I guess I was kind of like, I guess, naive to the fact that there are like tons of countries out there with much lower ages than the United States for sex and stuff. And I had just, really getting big into digging into certain secret societies. I have noticed just like with other countries that they may associate with or end up having lodges in. I
Yeah.
just, from being nosy, happened to run and like,
Wow.
there is, I do believe that there is people do play that game where they know that countries have different laws, different
Oh,
age.
absolutely. The sex tourism, like people that go to Cambodia, or, I guess I don't know if Vietnam was before, but places like that, like Vietnam and Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, you know what I mean? Like, there's basically, you bribe the cops, you can do whatever you want, right? I think they've definitely have cracked down now, because they're in Canada. There was a guy. Oh, I don't even like talking about this guy. He's like one of those ones where, and again, he's out of prison. He's out. He's out. This is the thing. He's out. His name was Don Baker. So imagine right after the Picton atrocity, like everyone's just scarred from Picton, right? The news cycle, all the crazy things that this guy was doing. So right after that happened, they found this other monster. His name was Don Baker, and there's this park. It's called Crabtree Park. It's in the downtown east side, and at a lunch hour, these guys, these construction workers, hear a woman screaming like bloody murder, and they see this woman in a bush, and there was a guy with a videotape, and he was kicking her, and in a private area, and she's screaming. So of course they call the cops, stuff like that. The cops come. The guy had a whole bunch of videotapes in his car, and then they went to his house. They ripped the drywall out of in his living room. It was all tapes, and he used to go to Cambodia and Thailand and those kind of places. And he was doing like vicious, abusive stuff to 9-year-old girls. So the RCMP went to there. They actually found the kids, and they charged him. He was one of the first people, I think, in Canada to be charged for a sexual offense in another country, and especially, I think, to underage minors. And make a long story short, I think he got a 10-year bit, and he's out, parole. He's on a dangerous offender, because in Canada you could be labeled a dangerous offender, which you'll be locked up for life. I think this guy qualifies as a dangerous offender, because the videotapes, what he was doing to these women on the downtown east side were just, it's almost unspeakable. Like it's almost, you can't even talk about it, what he was doing. And that's what I'm saying. And he's out. I don't mean to laugh, but it's more like gallows humor, you know?
Yeah, that's like very ironic in a disturbing way.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you even have to wonder if like those people get a pass or some shit. You know,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
you know.
can't wait. So I was at a friend's house on
Mhm.
Friday. The lady whose house I was at is a very prominent lawyer in
Right.
Toronto area.
Mhm.
She told me that yes, that's true what you just said, and why that a lot of sexual crimes and criminals
Yeah.
get a pass because the judges are into fucked up shit.
Wow.
She said that's absolutely true, and she didn't
Wow.
understand why for years in her
Wow.
career. She's been
Wow.
she's been a crown, so she's been like
Yeah.
you know, for the
Crown prosecutor. Yeah.
yes, a crown prosecutor and a defense attorney. She's been both.
Wow.
And she can say with certainty
Mhm.
that yes, that's absolutely true, that a lot of judges are into messed up sexual stuff.
God,
And
nothing
that's
surprises
why
me.
they give like the sexual predators a pass, because they have a bias. Or they're involved and they know them.
There was a guy, and okay, so this is like the early days of the internet, right? When it was all blogs, and you know, when you're researching conspiracy stuff, you had to go down these crazy blogs that were like, you know, they almost hurt your eyes, like the, you know,
It's like
shitty
small
font,
print.
the shitty font and stuff. And there was a guy, he used to rant on, and he'd have these great big epic, and he couldn't understand if this guy was just crazy or there's something, but he was very detailed. And there was a thing called there's a very high end club in Vancouver, like really like over all the what it's like, it takes you like you have to be on a waiting list for like 10 years, and it's like $100,000 or more. It's called the Vancouver Club, and it's a lot of them as judges and lawyers that belong to this club. And this guy kept making all these crazy allegations against, they're all at the Vancouver Club. And he said in this blog, he said that there was a bunch of judges and lawyers that were abusing underage kids from the reserve, the Squamish Reserve, which was in North Vancouver.
Yeah.
And they said that some of the natives were in on it because they were making money off it. Like some of the scumbags were selling their kids. And he was making all the allegations, and they said they kept locking him up in the psych ward as punishment, like how to deal with him, gag him, put him in the, he goes, I've been gagged so many times. But okay, this is where it gets weird, right? So there was a show in Vancouver called Da Vinci's Inquest. And Da Vinci's Inquest would take real storylines.
I remember that show.
And integrate them, like they did a thing on the Boozing Barber. And the Boozing Barber was this scumbag in the downtown east side that was murdering women with booze. He would just force them to drink a lot. And so when they would die, I guess an accident, they drank too much. And he'd also pick women that have histories of alcoholism. So he got away with it for like 10 plus years. Oh yeah, he was prolific. Plus he knew how to use a legal system. The guy was apparently good at the stock market, so he made a lot of money. And he made all his money on the stock market and bought a barbershop, and he just abused women constantly, these women that were alcoholic. And he said he would pursue something like 250 women a year. Like that's what a psycho he was. So anyways, they did a big thing about him, but then in the same series they started talking about this pedophilia ring that took place at this upscale club. And you know what? I tried to find those episodes recently. I couldn't find them. They are scrubbed from the internet.
Wow.
And it was like a 5-part series, but that's what it was. It was like these in this show, they said they were prominent developers, and they all belonged to this really upscale club, and they were targeting this pedophilia ring, and it was just very mirrored to what that guy was ranting about in the blog. So yeah, nothing surprises me.
Yeah, I just like, it seems almost like I think I even mentioned it like when the last true crime thing I covered myself with Joe Metheny. I mean, that's a little different story, but like you can get like, John Wayne Gacy. I think he's a perfect example. He went into jail, he got a decent amount of time, but somehow while he was in there, I think he had a golf course installed for the jail.
Oh, wow.
And then like left after like 2 years, and then was able to do the other crimes.
He had a lot of political connections too, I heard.
Yeah, and like he also, had through these these degrees of connection. There was somebody that worked for him that also was connected to a pedophilia dude who was like running this pedophilia ring down like in Texas.
Wow.
And like the same thing with him, he had got popped once, got out on bail, and the cops on the case even say, if you were to have seen the names that he had in his Rolodex,
wow,
it was almost like you remember back in the day when our parents they might have had like recipes like on those little cards.
Yeah.
Cards,
They had like those things with like names.
Every all the prominent
they were
people.
like you would lose it if you actually knew who was on.
Like Epstein's Black Book.
he gets no bail, skips, gets popped again, and then
Right.
when he's in, supposedly, this is the story, and I find this like a little questionable because I'll say from my experience, this guy, when he went into jail, he supposedly then was still running like his ring from like printing out the pamphlets and sending it from jail.
Wow.
Now, I do believe that might be possible, but from my experience in federal prison, I can see being able to print those up, but to actually mail tons and tons of mail out, unless you got everybody going.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Because Clifford Olson,
somebody was involved in there, or he was sending one out, and somebody else was making them and sending them everywhere else.
Wow.
I don't buy that actually, like, it sounds like a funny like tale to tell with some like, it just, to me, something's fishy with that. But again, what I was getting at is that like he was connected to that guy who was got out, was no bail, then got arrested, did hardly any time too. It was just like,
you see that a lot. You see that a lot. Like for example, like almost all the really prolific serial killers in BC, like Clifford Olson. He got this sweetheart deal where he got paid to tell where the bodies were. I'm not even joking. Got $100,000 to tell where all the bodies are. I think $110,000, 10 grand per kid. And then it's like you were saying, in jail, he had all these privileges. You're only purportedly only allowed to use a phone for his lawyer or something like that, and had to be scheduled. He was always on the phone talking to journalists in his cell, using the phone whenever he wanted, and he would mail stuff all the time, and he would sell like his signature to like morbid serial killer, like make money off that. But the worst part is he would mail the victims' families disgusting letters on the anniversaries of their kids' death, describing in great detail what he did, while the taxpayer are paying for his stamps and stuff. So it nothing surprises me, and these monsters seem to always get special privileges, and they seem to have so many chances before they get ultimately locked up too. You see that pattern quite a bit. So there's something sketchy, absolutely.
Even with like military connections. Have you ever noticed that with some of the stuff over by you?
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer had military connections. Almost like everyone, like quite a few of them. There's did you ever look into the Dave McGowan's work?
Some of it, yes.
Yeah, he talks a lot about that, and he talks a lot about how he believes also that these serial killers were also part of a network as well. They believes that there was some kind of, and it would kind of make sense, because it's like, if you're like, you're into running like hitmen and stuff like that, you're going to have a group of people that are able to kill on demand, right? And some of these hitmen probably could be serial killers when they're not being paid to kill. Like, if you kill for fun, I'll do it for money too, right?
I have offered one to that too, like, or like MK Ultra gone wrong in a sense.
Yeah, that too. Or that guy, his name was Israel Keys or something like that. Do you hear about him?
Yeah, just
he lived in Alaska, and they said he was this crazy military too.
I heard about him.
Yeah, and I think he was like in special ops and stuff. I think he, like, because he did really insane crimes. Like, he would bury kill kits 2-3 years ahead of where his victims were. Yeah, he did meticulously planning. And they think that he might have killed some of the women in the Highway of Tears because he lives in Alaska. So they think he could have had something to do with some of them. And he would travel from Washington State to Alaska, and you have to go through BC, right? So he does. Yeah, I don't know. Too many monsters out there.
Yeah, I wonder with the military thing if it's just something to do with PTSD, or like you're saying,
Or
my
MK Ultra, or just
yeah,
frying their brains on experiments or whatever.
right? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Lot to speculate on there.
No kidding. No kidding.
That's wild.
What's
Yeah.
any of the other recent cases that you've come across that you thought like caught your attention?
Let's see. Oh God, there's like, as I said, like, okay, when I first, just to give a the answer, when I first started this 3 years ago, right? I built up all this research and cold cases, things like that. And I'd written podcasts that I haven't put out yet because the news cycle would start jumping ahead of the queue, so to speak, right? Oh, I better do stuff there because so much this is going on, or be a whole rash of like missing indigenous women. The first time I spoke with you, that's when all that stuff was going on. There was like I think about 6 indigenous women that went missing from Metro Vancouver around that. They don't seem right now. There's not a spike of them, but I'm sure there will be again. But just these things seem to come in cycles. But that there's an example, right? So then my priority went to shifting that. Now it's so nuts, I can't even keep up with it. Like, for example, a dead baby was found in Victoria, and they're worried about the mother. So they think this woman just maybe she was homeless or what. She just had a baby on a subway parking lot, and the baby died, and they have no idea where she is. Like, this is something that I don't think I've ever seen reported before, but now I see something that's like you don't even react to it. Then last week was all these stabbings on the transit. So you almost kind of got like, for me a little bit, I'm like, I almost feel like I'm becoming numb almost. Like,
didn't we cover some weird stabbing shit like 6 months ago?
There was a bunch of machete stuff that seemed to be machetes, and hatchets were all the fashion in Vancouver back then.
It's the West style crime.
Now it's knives, guns, not so many. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of gang stuff.
There was something where it was like a bunch of chicks, I think, stabbed some dude up, but that might have been over in the United Kingdom.
No, that was Toronto.
Yeah, that was Toronto. Yeah.
There was a group of young girls, remember?
And did they meet on the internet, and that's what their intention was?
Yeah, they were like swarming people. Oh. I don't know. I never heard anything about it after.
Yeah, because that was so bizarre. Because like I think some of them but it's like I don't know, like some of them I don't think they totally connected with the internet. So like that seemed weird too.
Yeah, that was a strange one because it's a bunch of girls. I don't know if they have a criminal history or not, but they all decide, hey, we're gonna go kill a homeless man today. Cool. Yeah.
I think they
and no one thought like, hey, this is a bad idea. Like, so that's a question though. But there's a question there, right? It's like, before, if someone was able just to go and kill someone randomly without being angry, we'd call that person a psychopath, right? So now it's like we have like this collective psychosis that just seems to be under the surface and it's scary for a very young population, like these, they're like 13 to like 22. It seems to be the most violent age group now.
Yeah, it's concerning to say the least, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they call them Generation Z for a reason.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's dead. Dead's dead, baby. From Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Something I actually want to ask you, and because I know how you've been doing this for a while, and I'm pretty sure you might see it as well. But in your opinion, have you seen? And I've heard other even Harsh Reality. He has mentioned it too, and it's something I do think is like almost trending. It almost seems like these people are getting almost like kind of glamorized or idolized too. With serial killers and stuff. Like even with the I know we talked about the Idaho 4, but like people are starting to put that guy up Bundy with like the weird worshiping.
There's always been, I guess, this fascination to, or I call it morbid, I would say morbid curiosity, right? There's a little bit of that. But we also, too, though, we live in I think we live in a society where it's all about shock value. Like, do you remember when you were kids, right? And they would have what was that show? It was, he was an asshole. I forgot the name of the show, but he had a big ashtray and he was just super offensive. But that was the show, right? It was like almost see how offensive he could be. It was called the Morty Downey Jr. show, or he was like this fucking prick, right?
Yeah.
And he was always with the cigarettes, and he would get
I know
people
you're
all
talking
riled up and stuff. And then, you know, Jerry Springer died recently, and the same thing again. It's shock and awe, right? We'll watch, you know, people have always liked, like, you know, back in the day, the freak circuses and stuff like that. So there's this element of like, and even reality TV to some degree, right? And then you go on TikTok and stuff, it's all getting views and stuff. And these crazy kids, right? This is the difference between when we were teenagers and we were teenagers. We were 1,000 times more smart because we didn't get caught for anything, and we had 1,000,001 excuses to wiggle out. And these idiot kids, they'll film themselves doing it, they'll post themselves doing it, and they'll bust themselves doing it. And something like that's like violent, like bear spraying, stabbing, things like that. They're dumb. They don't understand that not everyone's going to think that's cool and give you a like. You're going to actually, you know, you're going to meet someone who's really pissed off that you did that to their kid, you know, and you know, maybe they're have a different way of resolving it, right? You know?
Wasn't there a case that just recently closed that, like, I think there was like footage of the girls like basically beating the other girl that turned up dead, and they're like, no, they're innocent. I know I heard something about it. I know, like, I saw it on Harsh Reality because he was like, I just can't believe this case.
I've seen so many horrible swarming ones, and people send them to me, and they're awful. Like they're just something out of like Lord of the Flies, like just something depraved, you know, just like, oh my God. And then when I see, like, and they all dress the same. They all look like 100-pound skinny ninjas in tracksuits with a man purse, and they carry their bear spray in their man purse. And then when I see them on the street, I just you know, just make sure they feel me, right? Like, and I had this weird incident. I was at the park with my kids, and it's summertime, right? Like 30-degree weather, like pretty hot, like 90 in your temperature, so hot, right?
Yeah.
These 100-pound ninjas show up at the park, and they, you know, they're just kind of the way they are. They're stalking, you know what I mean? Like you feel their intention is not good. I'm with my little kids and stuff, right? And yeah, it was very unsettling. I'm like, oh great, I have to carry pepper spray when I go to the park, you know? But they seem to have gone away, which is good. But that was a thing. Everyone was talking like, where are these kids coming from? All menacing, right? But some of them were causing shit. Like they were bear spraying. They stabbed some guy at a gas station who was like 40-year-old, a father, you know, over some bullshit too, right? So yeah, the hyper violence of them is concerning, right? And they don't understand. Like I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I'm just saying, oh, if someone bear sprayed me and my kids, I would shoot them in the face with a flare gun. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, fuck you. You're gonna do that? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like they have no idea, like, when you do violence on someone, what someone else is capable of. Someone might be capable a lot more than you, and they're just keeping it all in the cage, right? But they're too young to understand that, right? That's why most people who do know how to fight don't go and pick fights, because they understand what violence is, right? And not these boneheads.
Boneheads.
I know for myself, I thought I've kind of come across a lot of like glamorizing, and I do just think, like, even like you were saying, it seems like the violence is just getting worse younger.
Well, they share their bullshit on like Snapchat. What's the other one? Not Telegram.
Snapchat.
Yeah, there's Snapchat. There's one called I think called Telegram or something.
Yes.
And they share all their stuff there, and then people will find it, and then they'll on that, and then they'll share it on like TikTok and Instagram. But yeah, I've seen stuff that's just like so not cool. Like there's one where it just pissed me off. Was this old guy? He looks like a bit of a dork, but he's like harmless, right? He's like this 70-year-old man on his bike, and he has a stupid helmet on, and he goes into the elevator because he's on the SkyTrain, so he's taking the elevator down from the platform. And he's holding the door open, and then, of course, there's the 100-pound ninjas there at the door. He's trying to hold the door open. Oh, you guys coming in? And they wait for the door just to close, and they go with a big canister of bear spray, and they blast him in the face with it, and you could hear him screaming in pain. And I'm just thinking, God, if I was there and I saw that, oh, God. You know, just, you know, his poor, and his old man scream. And the thing with bear spray, it's mixed with an oil to really attach itself to the bear fur. And so even after you wash it off, people saying like for 10 hours later, because it gets right under the skin. So for like 10 hours, you're in like this most excruciating pain. So
wow.
Yeah, and they're considering not letting kids buy it now. They're considering it now. Oh, the government here. Yeah, we're thinking about making a rule that if you're 18, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to buy bear spray. In the city of Vancouver, there's no fucking bears.
Yeah. Wow.
You might see some sometimes, like, a black bear that comes from like North Vancouver, but there's not a large bear population. In the mountains, in the suburbs, yes, but there's no reason to sell bear spray in the city limits, especially with all this stuff going on, right?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. See, another thing you never hear about in Toronto, I don't think.
Yeah,
bear spray wouldn't be a common object to grab on your way out to do some crime. I don't know.
Well, it is a very effective weapon, I can tell you, because again, if you have a 1,200-pound, brown bear or a grizzly wanting to eat you, and all you have is this spray, you better wish it works. And usually because it could shoot out for like up to 18 to 20 feet, but then it's like a canister, like almost looks like a fire extinguisher. So it's not like a pepper spray where it's in your hand. It's like some of them are like the size of this.
Oh, wow.
So imagine and I've seen it where like swarmings and these asshole kids, excuse my language, will bear spray like a girl in the face while all the guys and stuff. Like, I swear to God, like I said, I can't emphasize this. If they do this to my daughter kids, I'll beat your dad with brass knuckles in front of you. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like, you know what I mean? Like it just, like, when you see them, you're just like, oh my God, like you can't believe it. And then they'll make her kiss my shoe and all this, like I said, it's out of Lord of the Flies.
Wow.
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Eh?
Well, like you're saying, Mark, it goes back to like desensitizing the population, right? Like, I think we could see that in our lifetime, from programming on TV, video games, movies, from when we were small.
Yes.
To now is completely different.
Yes.
People let their kids watch the most messed up stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, we were at a friend's house the other day and the kids were downstairs doing God knows what. My younger son, who's 8, comes upstairs and says, Mommy, I saw a YouTube video where this guy got shot. And I said, what?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, they were dressed as Sonic characters, but it was real life. That's how he described it to me. So it's not a cartoon.
Right.
He says they were dressed up as Sonic characters and Sonic shot Tails.
Wow.
And I was like, what are you talking about? The other parents, not even listening.
Yeah.
Just in one ear. Like, kids see the most messed up stuff from super young that we did not have access to.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Like, like my stepson, who's like 22, Call of Duty full blast, on a massive 60-inch screen. I'm like here for going on for like 10 hours, all hyped up on Red Bulls and Cokes and stuff. Like, this is good for your brain, right?
Not at all. Yeah. But from so young, like my son is 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, really? That's what you guys...
my daughter's 8, my son's 6.
Okay. I have an 11-year-old also. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's wild. Like, kids at school, they watch Stranger Things. That's huge with like my older son's age group. I'm like, sorry, Stranger Things is hardly appropriate for me.
Yeah.
Let alone
mine would probably be too scared for that.
What the fuck are you guys letting your kids? And one of my school, she was like, yeah, they watch it with me. I was like, what are you talking about? So like,
that's the thing, right? Like the desensitization again. That's like, and like we're saying, like the kids, like compared to what we watch some, but at the same time, I watched some pretty effed up stuff as a kid too, like Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger.
But I feel like it's different because it was, you could tell it was a movie. Whereas like this like random YouTube footage, it looks very real.
We didn't watch like gore of someone's head being blasted on a sidewalk, or you know what I mean. It was like, and it was a context of Hollywood, right? Like, even though it was pretty gory and but still, but I think that's what it is, and maybe they're just desensitized. And I think also the pandemic and the lockdown, that's what the experts are saying, right? Why these kids are hyper violent is because they don't have an attachment to society. They've been locked down, and the pandemic was messed up. It messed people up. And, you know, even myself, I feel like, I don't even know even really how to describe it. Like you went through something and you don't really quite how to, you know, explain it, and how weird things got with, you know, the Karens losing their self in public because someone doesn't have a mask on, or yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff. Like people really go, you know, or you're not vaccinated, like become like the vaccination Nazis. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like
No,
I
you know,
understand how people end up in the gas, in these, you know, these gas chamber death camps now. You know, it's like, oh, we're gonna start, you know, rounding up people that don't get vaccinations, and we have these wonderful camps for them. And we're gonna move them by train, right? You know, like. And they can wear nice armbands and that say non-vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
You know, because that's how it felt. Like people were like that crazy, and
oh yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing about incidents where when patients are unconscious in the hospital, they are stabbing. Yeah, in Ontario right now. Multiple cases. Yeah. It's a
Wow.
thing. And I have family and friends that are scared to go for procedures because they're
Right.
worried that that's going to happen to them, because on, you know, your medical forms, they're probably going to ask you
Yeah.
if you are or are not against,
Wow.
you know, the C.
You know what's
Yeah, that's
it's so
crazy.
weird, and I was even gonna bring this up, you know, especially for New York, but like
Yeah.
it's pretty much not even existent here anymore.
What's
And
that?
there's only like I'm
That's
gonna be.
good.
This sounds crazy, but like I could even go out somewhere. I can go food shopping. There'll be like those one or two idiots always, but
Yeah.
like literally nobody. It's almost as if like, oh yeah, but
Everyone's just over it. Yeah, I feel
it's
that
like,
way
oh, we're just
here
ignoring.
too.
We
You
got
get the
you
few
know we got
diehards
that.
with their
Gotta
mask,
go.
like because I used to have to drop my kids off and pick them up at the elementary school, right? And then you'd have to go drop them off, and then all the parents are masked and all looking all freaked out at you and stuff like that. And yeah, it was weird. And there was like one guy, I called him the last man standing. No one was wearing masks anymore, and he had some custom made one that his wife made, but it looked like a giant fucking diaper on his head. I just like, God, he looks stupid, that thing. I didn't say that, but every time I look at him, I'm like, what self-respecting man would wear a diaper over his face? You know.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, it was just funny, right? And then there's but yeah, some people, like I remember like when it was at the peak here, it's just like I remember bumping into someone that's like you hear them
Yo, you like
hyperventilating
feel the
and
anxiety going into a supermarket.
yeah,
Yeah.
or my favorite one when you knew the mom was a nurse, and then we went for Chinese food takeout once. So I go in, and there's this mom that's obvious a nurse, scrubs, mask, gloves, everything, and she has her whole kids all in, hairnet, the mask, the gloves, and the second they walk out the door, rip it all off, throw it in the parking lot. I'm like, you assholes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's to the point, like in Toronto area, there's quite a few people who still wear them. I mean, I'd say most don't. But
In
like
hospitals, you
today,
got to wear a mask. That's it. When I had to go see someone who was getting some medical procedure, you have to wear a mask in the hospital, and that's it.
same here,
Yeah.
but I think they're considering dropping it now because they see
Wow.
the lack of evidence that it actually does
Oh yeah, it doesn't do
anything,
anything.
We don't even have to wear
right?
them in doctors' offices or hospitals anymore. That's all done too.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
good.
same here too.
No, it's to the point that today I was shopping with my husband and
Mhm.
I was like, do you feel like how I feel about when someone in an N95 approaches you, you automatically just think they're retarded and
Oh
you
yeah,
don't want to talk to them like
yeah,
at all? And he's like, yeah,
yeah.
basically. But there's so many people that were wearing one, I had to wait till they were passing me to say it. There was at least
Wow,
5 people in a row.
wow.
I was like, I couldn't say it. I kept getting interrupted, right? Amazing.
God. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a strange time though. Like I'll never forget it. And then it's like how much of it was bullshit, how many and the thing is like I've known some people that did get COVID. Like one of my friend's grandparents got it really bad. He was in the hospital and stuff. But I didn't know anyone that died. But there was a teacher at a school here, and she was really healthy and she got COVID, and then she got better, and then she got some bizarre complication and died. It was like one of these weird freak, like, but there must have been something genetically also going on with her. There has to be, right? Yeah,
It's
or maybe,
possible.
Yeah,
You
but
don't.
I'm sure they're cooking up something in the labs now that's just gonna, you know,
I'm
make us,
sure.
you know, oh yay, well, the masks are back. You know, I'm sure
Well,
they're working on something.
Oh, they were talking about it on the TV. And then after this, I wanted to ask you something just real quick. I saw something on the TV yesterday where I think they're talking about some new one that's supposed to affect your eyes. And I'm like, you know,
Oh
that's
God.
just, but like even just thinking of like coronavirus, I was just
Yeah.
like the eyes to, I can't.
There
Oh,
was
corona.
one with the
I'm
monkeypox.
just like, what the
They were
fuck?
trying to get everyone like, oh, you know, they came up with a great name, but it didn't stick, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
monkeypox didn't stick.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did want to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
Mark, before we start to wrap it up. Is there anything like I know before in the past, like you said, you kind of did have a thing that you were working on specifically, and now there's a lot of stuff just all over the place. But is there anything that you're kind of working on for the future? Any topics that you're thinking you're going to try to tackle and cover in the future?
I'm going to carry on. There's no shortage of content, of criminal content in Vancouver. So there's
Yeah.
always, you know, there's a lot of stuff. But answer your question though, yeah, I'm working on a couple. I'm working on a Vancouver Safe series actually, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna interview a variety of people, different experts, the drugs, the mental health aspect, because it's all in this pot, right? You got so the perfect storm of mental health, homelessness, drugs, a weak ass court system, and then everyone wants to blame the cops, right? You know, so it's created this crazy environment. So I'm working on that, and then I'm working on this Highway of Tears, and then I want to also do, and this is like later on. This is after I do this other stuff. Another thing I really want to get into is predators that use social media like Snapchat, those other ones, and this is something more for like a younger demographic. I'm working with this. I have this intern, a journalist intern who's 19 years old. So I'm going to work with him doing like trying to maybe, I don't know, like an education or some kind of public campaign about, because it's really creepy, the amount of perverts and predators that use Snapchat and those types of things. And some kids are just too dumb to know what kind of stuff they're getting into. So I want to scare them straight.
Maybe you could do like a school presentation thing.
Yes.
That
Did
would
you ever
be
see that? The Scare Straight? Did you ever see the original one?
no.
I
Oh,
think
Scared Straight? No,
Yeah,
I
the
think
no.
A&E used to do that Scared Straight series where they take kids to jail, but there's an original one from the 70s. I think you could find it on the internet. Oh, it's awesome because these 70-year-old, these 1970 type of convicts are scary as fuck, and they're crazy, and they're screaming at this kid, and he's like, because I guess, I don't know if he's mad that he's giving him eye contact, I guess, because that's disrespectful in jail. Like, you're eyeballing me, right? He's screaming that. And then he said to the kid, he's like, if you keep eyeballing me, I'm going to pop one of your eyeballs, right? Like, yeah, just screaming in his face. Like, but yeah, it's kind of amusing. I'm trying to figure out how do I do that, but with Snapchat, right? You know,
There
that
you
same
go.
kind of shock and awe and scare the kids from,
I've even
wanting
come
to meet
across
perverts online.
I've come across a couple, I think like 2 or 3 series. I don't remember the names of them. I on Netflix, and maybe I don't know if they're all on there, but I have even watched recently. Like, there's some stuff where I was like, wow, like that shit's going on with like Snapchat and Telegram. Like, what I'm getting at is like I couldn't believe like what kind of like master manipulating goes on just doing
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, for me,
Oh,
Snapchat is like the ultimate pervert paradise because one, you don't have to show your age, right? Two, you don't have to use your actual picture. I could use a cutesy avatar of me that appeals to a 13-year-old girl, but I don't look like, you know what I mean? And then it also geolocates their addresses so the perverts know where the kids live. And then when someone takes a screenshot, everyone gets notified. Oh my God, someone's screenshotting. We don't want them to screenshot what we're showing here. You know what I mean? It's like a little alert system, right? Kind of reminds me of, you remember like Michael Jackson on his hallway? He had those like the alarms. So when someone's walking down the hallway, it would give him like enough warning to, get the kid out of his bed.
Oh, is that true?
wow.
I
That
don't
was in
know.
Never Land. Apparently, this is what the maid testified this, that down the hallway, he had like almost like an infrared strip. We walk by, it would send off a ding, 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 ding. Oh, someone's down the hall. You got 30 seconds before they come to your door. So gave them warning before
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Well, if you ended up doing that, that would be really cool. Like if you started
Yeah.
an account like with little snippets of that or almost like educational pieces, you know, like
Yeah.
what to look out for. Because even there's stuff like Roblox or like Minecraft, like those games, like predators use those games to
Yes.
lure
Oh, it's
kids
disgusting.
also, you
Yeah.
know. But there's an account I follow on Instagram. It's called Ace She Ain't Coming Bro. And it's a girl who
Mhm.
like follows, like she poses
Mhm.
as a underage, like as a
Okay.
minor,
That's a
and
good.
then she lures like predators, and then she
Wow.
confronts them. They think they're meeting like a 14-year-old girl, and
Yeah.
then she comes out and
Oh, that's hilarious.
she's like, "Are you here to meet so?" And she films them, and like they're all like, you know, scared shitless usually, and like,
Wow.
"Don't tell my
I've
family."
seen dudes.
Yeah,
do
there's a guy here
that.
called
That's a
Creep
chick
Checker
star.
that do that, and he's been kind of in and out of trouble with it. I think his heart's in the right place, but I wouldn't really do it the way he like for example, if you
Oh, I've seen
confront
some of them. They're out of their
yeah,
mind.
yeah, and if you confront someone on you know on private property, like you're in a building, a restaurant, and then you're causing this big scene and thing, you know, I don't think really that's the way to do it. The way I would do it, not that I would spend the time doing it, I'd probably end up going crazy doing it, but if I would just basically record the conversation, screenshot it, and just put the guy on blast. And then once, if I would meet the person, you just take a picture of the guy. It's like, oh yeah, just send him a text. Oh yeah, you got the message, right? Oh what?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, and
Well,
walk
and
away,
just
right? And then
exposing their tactics, right? Their
yeah,
common tactics. I don't know if this girl she works with the police or what, but I think it's like she's part of some organization that
yeah, it's good
they do it.
that people are doing that though, because I'd rather people do it than not. The one I saw was on TikTok was pretty funny. It's like this massive, scary Russian guy. He's like 300 pounds. And he walks in, he's just jacked with a baseball bat. You came to meet my niece. The guy's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. You come in my house. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
pretty funny.
God.
He scares the living, you know what, out of him.
That's
But
wild.
yeah. Well,
Oh my
yeah, and
God.
that's a strange thing too, because it's like I really believe, and again, I really hope I'm wrong, but I almost feel that's the next frontier. It's going to be like, oh well, kids that are 6 years old, they could make consensual,
Oh.
you know, decisions with
Uh-huh.
an 80-year-old man. You know what I mean? It's like, who are we to get in the way, right?
Seems
But
that's what's next. Yeah.
yeah, there was a TED talk where a woman was already,
Oh, I remember
yeah,
that. I watched that because I was like,
yeah,
does that really
and it's
exist?
my
And it
identity.
does.
Oh, yeah, jeez.
Yeah. I
It's
was like,
kind
holy
of
crap. I was like, these people weren't lying when they were talking
But
about this.
it's like testing, like, you know, because I have a business background and but that's what they do. They test ideas out. You know what I mean? See how the public's gonna be receptive to it, right? But because most people, like they say, like it's like for them to form an idea, like for marketing, like sometimes they'll have to see the idea like 50 times, and that's why you see the bombarding in the mainstream media, like this really saturated. So it's like, oh, it's the truth. Everyone's talking about it, right? Because we all know that, you know, transgender people love Bud Light, right? That's their favorite drink, right? Yeah. Who are we to get in the way of that, right?
Oh my God.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, and I don't mind if they do or don't. I don't care. But the point is that everything's this weird orchestration, and it's always like makes your head scratch, and then they lose a bunch of money. But no, they kind of won because they blasted the idea that they made the money or the value of by the topic being front and center. There's a war in the fucking Ukraine, and the Bud Light shit got more mainstream media than entire cities in Ukraine being leveled flat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you go.
I
right?
think it was just done to trigger people and whatever. You know,
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's what
that,
it is.
and just to keep putting it in people's faces, like you
Yeah,
said.
and it's memorable, right? When something pisses you off, you're more likely going to remember it than something that bored you. And oh yeah, like, you know, like if like for example, like if let's say she endorsed or whatever the pronoun is, a wine splitzer, no one would give a shit. Oh, coolers, okay, cool. You like coolers, okay, cool. Right? No one would care, right?
It'll make
Or
more sense.
Bacardi, yeah,
even know
some
about
fruity Bacardi drink or whatever. You know, okay, cool, right?
That's
But
funny. Oh, like
But
I
they-
had even made a comment. You know, if that character is to do an iPhone commercial next month, is anybody going to say anything about that?
no, right? You
Too
know?
many people use the iPhone.
Nope. You will
Yeah.
hear jack shit, or you'll see millions of people saying, "I'm getting rid of my iPhone," and they're not really.
Well, there'll probably be this some
So-
with you know, because you get the ridiculous on both sides. You do.
Like
They're
everybody's saying that I'm canceling
smashing their
Netflix.
iPhones. Fuck your iPhones. Like, you know what I mean? You probably get a few of those, right? You know, like
Yeah.
You know how many times people told me they're canceling Netflix, and then like a month later they're telling me a show I should check out on there. I'm like, oh yeah, you canceled it.
Yeah, the cancel culture, that's another strange one. And you know what's so funny though, because it's like, you know, in Vancouver I don't know, it doesn't seem to be as robust as it was, but we were Hollywood North. So much stuff was filmed here, Netflix shows and movies. You know, there was lots of Hollywood production. So people that I knew that work on set, you always knew who the scumbags were. And it was funny because this is like late 90s. So my friend was a bouncer at this club downtown, and I lived literally like the next alley over. And I would walk over there maybe like about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, just, you know, hey, get let in. My friend worked there. And I walk over, and he goes, "Oh, you wouldn't believe who was here." And I'm like, "Who?" It was Kevin Spacey. And this was like kind of late 90s. He was in Vancouver filming. And he goes, "Yeah, he was in here with all his twink boyfriends. It was kind of funny. You know, everyone thought it was amusing." Right. And so it was, so then later, like almost like 2 decades later, he comes, "Oh, I'm gay." I'm like, "Oh yeah," like no one knew that. Like that's the worst kept secret possibly in Hollywood. So a lot of these were like open secrets anyways, you know. But basically my friend that was a bouncer saying the guy that he was with, he said he ID'd him because he couldn't believe how he had right ID. But he ID'd him because he thought the guy was like 16 or 17 years old. It's like 100-pound blonde little waif little thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that even goes back to like basically how people are even getting manipulated with politicians. But like you're talking about Kevin Spacey. To you, this wasn't, or to that person, that wasn't any new news.
Oh hell no! It was a kind of like, he came with a bunch of gay dudes, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
But like, people see him in movies and like, oh, he didn't play a gay dude in the movies, so I guess he's not gay. Like, people get stuck with the image of the character that they're playing on the TV and think that's them when their camera's off. And
like, for sure, he plays a president of the United States.
So that's like, you know, you put somebody up on stage for 30 minutes to run their mouth as a politician, and somehow people think that's what they really, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There, like, what was it? There was that one guy. He was funny. Back in the day when I used to listen to Alex Jones. God, that's another tragedy, isn't it? But anyways, he was one of this guy. I forgot his name. He would always come in. He was like the trends forecaster guy, and he'd always say he was from upstate New York too, so he had that kind of accent. And he'd always say politics is show business for ugly people. He'd always say that, and there's some truth to that, because it's like it's almost like, how do you become a politician, right? Well, you're not an actor. You're kind of, you know, maybe you have a little bit of charisma, but not enough to really, you know, make it anywhere else, right? And most of them, like when you meet them, they're just like empty. Like it's just like, I always have this kind of feeling of I don't know. It's like you're meeting an animatron, you know. It's like someone not, you know, they're not really quite all there. You know, the dead shark eyes that look through you, and
get the AOC eyes going.
Yeah,
like these black holes in the head.
Yeah, they're always weird. Like they're always strange. Like when you meet them. I had you know who Kim Campbell is?
The former prime minister?
Former prime minister of Canada.
Canada's one female prime minister for like 2 months.
Yeah, well, she was a minister of defense, but she was MP in the area I lived, and I played on a men's rugby team. So some idiot was getting married, and of course I got tasked to rent dirty movies. And so I'm at the Rogers Video, and then of course they make it as embarrassing as possible to rent them. You have to go into this room, and it had like a really like double hinge squeaky door, like right. So you open the door.
You know, every time someone's going in and out.
So everyone the store, right? And then they don't let you just get the video and go and
go up there and tell them this is what.
Yeah, it's empty clear tape, and then you have to write down on these codes on pieces of paper. So I'm on all these pieces of paper. And of course, I'm trying to rent stuff that has outlandish and crazy titles. And behind me, I look and I'm like, oh god damn it, it's Kim Campbell, and she of course has she had some a workout video or something like that.
What?
And then I have all this these stacks, and she's just giving me I'm the worst scumbag. I'm like, great. The Minister of Defense. She wasn't the Prime Minister there; she was a Minister of Defense, and she's just just looking at me like I'm this. Then of course the chick's behind is all flustered, and she's reading the titles out and. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. And then when I see the guy, what I had to go through to get these boobies. Should have invited her.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
That was
man.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah,
I guess we'll end it on that note. That was a perfect way.
There you go. Hey, show standard, right?
I think I forgot to let you kind of plug your stuff, Teresa. So
yeah. That's all right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I always have a great time when Mark comes on, full of interesting stories. And you had me thrown at Roger's video right there. Oh man, if anyone doesn't know, Roger's video is Blockbuster.
Yeah, right? Yeah, in Canada. Yeah, it was big. Yeah,
no, just assuming. But anyways, yeah, that was interesting, Mark. Thank you so much. But yeah, people can hear more from me on the Spiritual Gangsters podcast, which is on all major podcast platforms. YouTube, and please head over to Rumble because we need more followers on there in case YouTube goes down or we do lives and other fun stuff.
So I need to start more video.
Very well said. And your links, I think, should be in the bottom already. And even though your links are in the bottom already, Mark, let everybody know where they can find your stuff for the people listening.
Easiest way is probably Instagram, Vancouver True Crime. I just started a YouTube channel, which is probably, I think I have 23 followers. But my main page is Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I went down a rabbit hole and built a website, and then I realized I don't want a website because I have social media. If I have a website, I just want a store. After spending half a year building it, making it. So yeah, I have to torture myself really good. Right? But you guys are coming on my show next week anyways, right?
Yes, I got to. Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Continue our conversation.
Yes. Sounds good. And the links for all your stuff, like I was saying, is in the bottom. If there's anybody listening or happens to listen to this show on these live platforms before tomorrow, I will also be going live tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. doing magic and the paranormal with 7 degrees. So check that out. I will be doing that tomorrow night. I was supposed to have my buddy Lee from Inner Guardians jump on, but unfortunately life came up. So we'll still be doing it, us two. But check that out if people can. And until the next one, everybody be well.
Later.